Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got quite a stack of sources here detailing something absolutely foundational for organizational safety.
That's right. Hazard Identification and Risk Assessment, HIRA.
Exactly, HIRA. And this isn't, just ticking boxes. We're talking about the analytical blueprint for stopping disasters before they even start.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're really cracking open the framework from the EHM GISO 7 document. The mission here is to get past just the definitions and pull out the key actionable stuff you need to properly assess jobs, tasks,
And risk is controlled.
at an acceptable level, measurably.
Right, measurably.
And what's really vital for you to get up front is that HIRA's core idea, its objective, it applies across the whole life of a project site, specifically these EMPG project sites mentioned.
Cool.
It's basically the organization's promise, saying, look, risks to people, the public, the environment, will consistently keep them within our tolerance level. It's building safety in, not just hoping for it.
Well,
Building it in, I like that. And this whole framework, it forces you to ask, 5 key questions? These really shape the whole assessment.
5 non-negotiable ones, yeah.
Okay, so first, discovery. What can actually go wrong? That's your hazard.
Right.
Then the impact. Second, how bad could it be? The consequences.
Yep.
Third, frequency. How often might it happen? That's the likelihood.
Okay.
And fourth, you combine those last two.
Likelihood and consequences, yep. That gives you the number, the score we call risk.
But it doesn't end there, does it? Because the fifth one is maybe the most critical.
Absolutely.
Ah.
It's how effectively can we control that risk? Can we put things in place? That final question, that's where success or failure really happens out in the field.
Okay, so let's unpack some core vocabulary then.
No.
Because everyone needs to be on the same page with these terms for the system to work at all. We need to frame this right.
We absolutely have to. The most basic one is hazard. The document defines it pretty clearly. Any source, situation, or even an act. Anything with the potential to cause harm.
Harm being pretty broad here.
Very broad. Injury, ill health, sure,
Yeah.
but also damage to property or the environment. It's that potential for trouble we're identifying first.
Got it. Potential. Then you identify that and you move to risk.
Exactly. And risk is always calculated, like we said, from 2 factors.
Yeah.
The probability or likelihood of that hazardous event happening,
Okay.
and the severity of the outcome, if it does happen, likelihood times severity.
And pulling those together, the whole risk assessment process itself is defined as, the systematic way of finding those hazards?
Then analyzing the risk tied to them, yeah.
And finally, evaluating both how likely they are and what the specific impact could be. It's like the analytical bridge from a threat to an action needed.
Well put. A bridge from threat to action.
Now, when looking at the actual work, the document makes a clear split, doesn't it, between types of activities?
Yes, very important. You've got routine activities. These are your day-to-day frequent tasks. And the rule is these must already have a safe work method, an SWM.
Okay, established procedure.
Right. Then you have non-routine, NR activities. These are occasional, maybe once-off or even unplanned jobs. These demand a fresh IRA study before you start. You can't just wing it.
That makes sense. And that distinction ties into this idea of tolerance, right?
Yeah.
What level of danger is okay?
It does. The definition of acceptable risk is key here. It's the level the organization says, okay, we can tolerate this, but, and this is a big but, only after considering and meeting all legal obligations.
Legal obligations are the floor.
Absolutely. And conversely, unacceptable risk is just that. Risk you cannot accept, no matter what the benefit of doing the task might seem.
And the source material draws a really hard line somewhere here, doesn't it?
It does. Procedurally, any hazard that gets classified as a legal concern, LC, think environmental regs, safety laws, or an emergency E has
Like fire, explosion.
Exactly. Those automatically fall into the unacceptable category, period. You don't even run the numbers on the risk matrix initially.
Yeah.
They demand immediate, proper controls. It's an enforcement trigger built right in.
That's powerful. It stops people trying to sort of negotiate away really serious risks. It just says, no, control this first. But there's another factor mentioned here that's crucial. Uncertainty. It's not just what you know.
It's about what you don't know. Exactly. In HIRA, uncertainty is defined as a contributing factor, something that affects how well you can identify hazards or assess risk in the first place.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. Think about starting work on an old industrial site. Maybe the maps for underground utilities, power lines, gas pipes are incomplete or decades old.
Right, happens all the time.
So the exact location is uncertain. That uncertainty itself has to be logged. It bumps up the overall risk of, say, digging or excavation right from the start.
Ah, I see. So it forces the team to be more cautious, maybe use different methods.
Precisely. It forces them to elevate their controls before they even break ground. It stops them from assuming a low likelihood just because they lack solid information. You assume the worst case within the uncertainty.
That makes perfect sense contextually. Okay, so let's dive into the procedure itself. Who actually does the assessment? How does it flow?
It kicks off right at the ground level.
Hmm.
The site execution team, the people doing the work,
Okay.
they select the job, list out all the activities, the sub-activities, and they make that first call, routine or non-routine for each step.
And that initial study then goes somewhere.
Yep, up the chain. It gets reviewed for sort of technical correctness by the site EHS
The
representative.
safety expert on site.
Right. And then it needs official sign-off approval from the project manager or maybe even the project director, depending on the scale. It's an integrated process. Everyone sees it.
Okay. And when that team is identifying the hazards, they classify them based on when the hazard is actually present.
Yes, that's critical for figuring out the right controls. 3 types here. First, the normal hazard,
Mm.
N.
Yeah.
Simple. It exists just because you're doing the activity. Using a grinder creates noise, sparks. That's a normal hazard.
Makes sense.
Second, abnormal hazard, AB. This one's a bit more subtle, but really important. The hazard doesn't exist when things are done correctly,
Okay.
but it can pop up under abnormal conditions, like if a machine breaks down unexpectedly, or maybe more commonly, if someone takes a shortcut, bypasses a safety guard, for instance.
Ah, so the potential for that shortcut becomes the abnormal hazard you need to assess.
You got it. And the third one is emergency hazard, E. Pretty much what it says on the tin. A hazard that could lead to a full-blown emergency fire, major chemical release, collapse when the activity's happening. These are the ones that need immediate, high-level attention.
The real showstoppers. Now, to make sure the team doesn't miss anything, the document gives this big list, 16 indicative types of OHS hazards.
Yeah, it's comprehensive. And the sheer breadth is what makes HIRA potentially so effective. It forces a wide view.
So it covers the obvious things like,
Oh yeah, gravity falls from height, slips, trips, very common. Chemical exposure, breathing stuff in, skin contact, lack of oxygen, standard stuff.
but it goes beyond the physical too.
Absolutely. It pushes the team to think more broadly. For instance, it explicitly includes human factors, behavioral issues.
Like what?
Things like fatigue, stress, maybe psychological issues affecting concentration, even simple horseplay or not following procedures. These soft risks are often missed if you only look at machines.
That's a really good point.
And then it zooms way out. It accounts for massive external factors, natural calamity, earthquakes, floods, cyclones, and even demographic hazards, things like stampedes, riots, civil unrest, even terrorism, depending on the location and context.
Wow, okay, so the message is, look everywhere, consider everything related to that work environment, all 16 lenses.
That's the idea, a truly 360-degree view.
Right, this is where we shift gears. We move from describing things to actually putting numbers on them. How do we get that risk score?
Okay, the quantification. As we touched on, it's multiplication. The risk rating score, let's call it R, is found by multiplying the severity rating, SR, by the likelihood rating, LR. R equals S times L.
RSL. Got it. So we need to break down those two scales. Both are 1 to 5.
Both are 5-point scales, yes. Let's look at severity first.
Okay, severity rating, SR. This measures how bad the outcome could be if the event actually happened, right? Regardless of how often.
Exactly. Maximum potential harm.
So a 1 on the SR scale is?
1 is no trivial effect.
Right.
Basically, a near miss, no real harm done.
Okay.
2 is minor injury, needs first aid, but the person is back on the job quickly.
And 3 is where it starts getting serious.
Definitely. 3 is a lost time injury, LTI. Someone needs hospitalization, time off work to recover.
Okay. 4.
4 is incapacity. Think major injury, permanent physical disability, a life-changing event short of death. Also an LTI, obviously.
And 5 is the absolute worst.
5 is fatality, catastrophic outcome, death. The scale jumps pretty quickly from minor inconvenience to irreversible harm.
Clearly. Okay, so that's severity. What about the other side? Likelihood rating, LR? How often might this happen?
Right. LR assesses the frequency or probability.
Right.
How likely is this event if the controls weren't there or if they failed?
So 1 on the likelihood scale.
1 is almost impossible, extremely unlikely to ever happen during the project's life. Maybe once in many decades or never.
Okay. 2.
2 is very unlikely. Might happen, but perhaps only, say, yearly. Once a year occurrence, maybe.
3.
3 is possible, could happen occasionally, maybe likely to occur monthly.
4, getting frequent now.
4 is probable, likely to happen maybe weekly.
And 5.
5 is certain or frequent, likely to happen daily or even multiple times a day potentially.
Okay, so you multiply these two 5-point scales. Severity, 1 to 5, times likelihood, 1 to 5. That gives you a risk score, R, ranging from 1
The safest possible score.
all the way up to 25.
The most dangerous, yes.
But just getting the number isn't the end point. We need to know what the number means. What are the action thresholds?
This is probably the most crucial part of the whole quantification process. The score dictates mandatory action.
Okay, what's the big red flag number?
The magic number is 10. High risk is defined as any score that is equal to or more than 10.
So 10 or higher is high risk. And what happens then?
Work cannot proceed. Full stop. Not until the team implements additional controls and recalculates the risk, the residual risk, and proves it's been driven demonstrably below that 10 threshold. It's a mandatory stop sign in the procedure.
Okay, so let's take an example. A potential fatality, severity 5, that's very unlikely, maybe happens yearly, likelihood 2. 5 times 2 is 10, stop work.
Correct. Stop work.
But also, what about a minor injury, severity 2? That's certain, happens daily, likelihood 5. 2 times 5 is also 10. Also stop work.
Also stop work. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It forces the team to treat frequent, lower consequence events just as seriously as rare catastrophes if the risk score hits that threshold. No excuses.
That makes sense. What about below 10?
Then you have moderate risk. That's any score equal to or more than 4, but less than 10, so 4 through 9.
And for moderate risk?
The team still needs a formal control plan, documented, actively managed. It's like a yellow warning light. You need to pay attention and have controls.
Okay. And below 4?
That's low risk, a score of 1, 2, or 3. Minimal specific controls might be needed, but you're still expected to monitor the situation. It's green, but keep an eye on it.
Got it. And it's really important to stress this first calculation, this S times L, it's always based on the controls already in place, right?
Yes, the existing controls, or sometimes lack thereof.
Once you have that initial score, the team immediately has to pivot to identifying, what does the document call them? Opportunities.
That's the term, yes,
Okay.
opportunities, which really just means the additional control measures you need to implement.
The things you need to do to lower the risk score.
Exactly, to get that residual risk score below the threshold. Below 10, ideally, and aiming for below 4 if possible.
And picking those controls, those opportunities, it's not just random brainstorming. There's a specific order.
A strict, non-negotiable hierarchy. You must always evaluate controls from the top of the list first. Only if the top level isn't feasible do you move down.
Okay, what's at the very top? The best option.
Number 1, elimination, EL. Just get rid of the hazard completely. Design it out. If you can do that, problem solved.
If you can't eliminate.
Then you try. Number 2, substitution, SB. Replace the hazardous thing with something safer. Swap out a dangerous chemical for a less hazardous one. Use a different, safer process.
Makes sense. What's next if substitution isn't practical?
Number 3, engineering controls, EC. These are physical changes to the workplace. Things like machine guards, installing ventilation systems, putting up safety barriers, isolating the energy source.
And the source seems to really emphasize these ECs.
It does, because they provide inherent safety. They work passively, protecting people without relying on someone remembering to do something. They're built-in protection.
Okay, so elimination, substitution, engineering. What's below that?
Number 4, signage warning administrative controls, AC. This is a broad category. It includes warning signs, alarms, safe work procedures, permits to work, training, job rotation to limit exposure. Essential stuff, but...
But they rely on people following the rules.
Exactly. They rely on human behavior, which is less reliable than an engineering control.
And the absolute last resort.
Number 5, personnel protective equipment, PPE. Gloves, helmets, safety glasses, respirators. If PPE is the only thing protecting someone, it generally means the higher level controls haven't been implemented effectively. It's the last line of defense, not the first.
That hierarchy is crystal clear. Eliminate first, PPE last. And once the team identifies these opportunities using that hierarchy,
They have to do another risk assessment, a post-opportunity calculation,
to prove the plan works.
to validate that the planned controls will actually reduce the risk score to an acceptable level. It demonstrates that you expect real OH&S performance improvement, not just paper compliance.
Okay, the procedure is rigorous, but it only works if people do their part. What about responsibilities?
Clearly defined roles are essential. Let's start right at the sharp end, with the workmen.
Okay, the people doing the job.
They must understand the risks involved in their task. They must follow the controls that have been put in place. And crucially, they are authorized, even obligated, to stop the work immediately if they feel the risk is unacceptable.
Empowering them to stop the job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stop the work. Tell their supervisor. It puts accountability on everyone.
What about the supervisors, the managers on site?
The site in-charge managers. Big responsibility here for communication. They have to make sure everyone knows the risks and controls. They ensure HIRA studies are done properly for non-routine work. And critically, they need to get out there and check.
Check the controls are working.
Yes, through regular safety observation tours, or SOTs. They need to validate that the controls identified in the HIRA are actually adequate and being used correctly. They're the systems auditors on the ground.
Okay. And higher up, project leadership.
The project manager or director. Their role is largely about resources, providing the funds, the equipment, the time needed to implement controls, especially those more expensive engineering controls.
Right. Making it possible to follow the hierarchy.
Exactly. They also review overall progress on risk reduction and must ensure everyone, from new hires to experienced hands, knows and understands this HIRA standard.
Yeah.
It's mandatory.
And this whole IRA process, it sounds like it's meant to be dynamic, not a one-off document.
Oh, absolutely. It's designed for continuous improvement. The process itself often highlights gaps where specific training is needed.
Okay.
And it's not set it and forget it. The IRA document must be reviewed and revised when?
Yeah.
Based on findings from those safety observation tours.
So if a manager sees a control isn't working,
The HIRA needs updating. Also, based on learning from any incidents or near misses. And of course, if there are significant changes, new equipment, different work methods, new materials, the HIRA has to reflect the current reality.
the living document.
Precisely.
Okay.
And to make sure this actually happens, the management system itself needs oversight. There should be champions evaluating compliance, maybe annually through self-checks,
And leadership needs to track progress.
regularly. Leadership should be reviewing key performance indicators, KPIs, every month. Things like how many HIRAs were approved, what percentage of high-risk tasks were successfully brought down below the threshold, how many engineering controls did we actually implement this month.
So measuring the actions taken, not just the paperwork found.
Exactly. Measuring behavior and real risk reduction.
Okay, this deep dive really confirms it. IRA, as laid out in EH-SUMG 07, isn't just a suggestion. It's a highly structured analytical machine. It pushes organizations way past just guessing or using simple checklists. By giving you that quantifiable matrix, R equals S times L, and that strict hierarchy of controls, it forces a really transparent, sometimes tough conversation about what could go wrong.
And ensures deliberate, documented steps are taken to prevent it.
Yeah, deliberate mitigation.
And ultimately, the system's real effectiveness boils down to management commitment. Are they willing to invest in solving risk higher up that hierarchy? With elimination, substitution, engineering controls.
Rather than just relying on procedures and PPE.
Which are often cheaper initially, but less reliable long-term. The numbers, that risk score, should force the right investment decisions if the system is used honestly.
Okay, that leaves us with a final thought to chew on, building on that idea of uncertainty we talked about earlier. Think about this. You're starting a complex job. The documented level of uncertainty about where a hazard is, maybe those sketchy underground utility maps again, is high enough that it bumps your initial likelihood score from, say, a very unlikely 2 up to a possible 3. And this is before any work starts.
Okay, the uncertainty alone increases the perceived likelihood.
Right. Does that assessment team then have maybe not just a procedural, but an ethical obligation to potentially bypass administrative controls and PPE entirely? And push straight for more robust, maybe more expensive engineering controls, or even try for full elimination just because of that high initial uncertainty, even before they've confirmed the hazard exists?
That's a really interesting question. How much does not knowing force your hand towards higher level, more definitive controls right from the outset, instead of waiting to find out the hard way?
Something to definitely consider the next time you inherit a site with less than perfect information.